Howdy, howdy. I am going to go through my Getting Started with Dictation Mode tutorial for Talon. Dictation mode is a pretty essential mode for being able to write text and do it without having to use a keyboard or a mouse. So welcome to dictation mode. Soon you will be a great dictator. This tutorial is all about how to dictate words, and this does not include editing commands. Editing is a completely separate tutorial. Before doing any sort of voice work, it is important to warm up. So short warm-ups are incredibly important in caring for and maintaining your body. As farmers say, if you don't schedule time for maintenance, your equipment will schedule it for you. Now is an excellent time to take 5 minutes, take care of your vocal equipment, and hum the Star-Spangled Banner through a straw with Ingo Tsitsi. So pause this video, do your warm-ups. I'll wait. Okay, so if you're all warmed up, let's continue on. Listen, page down. To get into dictation mode, you say the words dictation mode. I've set up this tutorial so that I have to say a special keyword before any command so that Talon Voice doesn't listen to me while I'm talking and not giving commands. And that command is listen. Also for this tutorial, I've set up a special command called dictate. It's basically like the game Simon Says. If you're playing the game Simon Says, you're not supposed to do anything until the person who is commanding you says the magic word Simon Says before you give the command. I've set up my computer so that it doesn't listen to me until I say the magic words. With that being said, you will not be using these prefix words because you don't have them in the commands that you downloaded. Page down. Listen, page down. Listen, page up. For you to get into dictation mode, you are going to say the words dictation mode. For me to get into dictation mode, I'm going to say the word dictate and then the command that I want. By default, dictation mode has several autoforming and capitalization features, and when in dictation mode, it will keep track of what you have said, and sentence terminating characters like periods, exclamation points, or question marks. When it hears those characters, it will automatically space and capitalize the next phrase, and it will also properly space things like commas, semicolons, and so on. Page down. Listen, page down. So for example, you're going to turn on dictation mode, open a text editor, and say, when the cow jumped over the moon, comma, the cat was playing. So the above does not have to be a full command. You can say it word for word or in a phrase or all at once. And the result will be, when the cow jumped over the moon, the cat was playing the fiddle. Let's practice that. Listen, click gust. And dictate, when the cow jumped over the moon, comma, the cat was playing the fiddle, period. Dictate, when the cow jumped over the moon, comma, the cat was playing the fiddle, period. Dictate when. Dictate, the cow jumped over the moon, comma. Dictate, the cat was playing the fiddle, period. And that is how you could use dictation mode to dictate long phrases. I'm going to try dictating the whole sentence again because I'm not sure why that didn't work. Dictate when the cow jumped over the moon, comma, the cat was playing the fiddle, period. There we go. All right, next section, undoing things. The command scratch that is often used to correct dictation, but scratch that has a couple of caveats. Let's look at them. Listen, page down. The way scratch that works is that it counts the number of keystrokes Talon typed during the last phrase, and then it will delete that number of keystrokes. As a result, if you move the cursor at all, it will start deleting from wherever you put the cursor. That also means that if you are using a program with certain forms of autocomplete, it will throw off Talon's count, and scratch that won't quite delete the last phrase you typed. If scratch that messes up, the best way to fix it is to switch to command mode with the command mode and start saying undo that. The undo that command uses the undo function of whatever program you are in. However, that also has some issues. For example, when you have to say a long phrase, the command that you are typing into will often interpret each word Talon types as a separate phrase. So even though you said the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog really quickly, using undo that, you might have to say the phrase undo that 9 times in order to delete the phrase word by word. This is why most people use scratch that. You can also say undo that 9 times, and it will repeat the undo command several times, but who wants to spend that much time thinking about what command you're supposed to remember to undo something? All right, so let's see scratch that in action. Listen, page down. If you want to see scratch that in action, you can switch to command mode and say the command recent list. This opens the recent phrases list, which keeps track of the last 40 things that you have said. And when we say scratch that, we can watch the first phrase disappear off that list. Listen, recent list. Listen, launch notepad. Dictate, scratch that. And as you can see, because I said scratch that, the top phrase disappeared off the list and everything else moved up. When you do that, when you're in a text editing area, it will delete the number of characters that was in that top phrase. Listen, recent close. Listen, page down. Listen, page down. Listen, page down. When you want to add custom vocabulary, special words like a name or a technical term to the dictation mode, you can open up your Talon home directory and add those words to additionalwords.csv. Talon will start dictating that word when you pronounce it. If Talon doesn't start dictating it, you can add a pronunciation hint. For example, I added the following line, Knausj, along with a pronunciation hint, Knausj, in order for my dictation mode to be able to dictate the name Knausj. Listen, page down. To open the Talon home directory, you can say, listen, help search Talon home. Okay, so the command Talon home is going to open the Talon home directory. Listen, Talon home. My computer is fairly slow, but this opened the Talon home directory. Now, in order to add additional vocabulary, I need to go to the user directory. Listen, go down. 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 Unfortunately, my computer is fairly old and slow, so it's having trouble. Listen, go up. Listen, go up. Listen, enter. I have a lot of custom Talon commands in my Talon user directory, but if you have just installed the recommended command set, you will only have one folder, and it's going to be Knausj-talon. Listen, go down. Listen, go down 5 times. Listen, enter. The additional words.csv file is going to be in your settings directory. Listen, go down 4 times. Listen, go down. Listen, go down. Listen, enter. And you can see it's the top CSV file. Listen, go down. Listen, go up. Listen, go up. Listen, enter. I have selected additional words, and it is probably going to open it in my default text editor notepad. This will depend on what operating system you are using in order to determine what text editor it opens. Listen, help, close. Listen, go down. I have a window saying select an app to open this CSV file. Let me see if the tab command works to tab through this. Listen, tab. Listen, tab. Listen, go down. 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 A lot of Windows applications are navigable using the Tab key and the arrow keys. And so I press the Tab key to get into this pop-up window, and then I use the arrow keys to go down the list until I found Notepad. Listen, enter. Listen, enter. And that rather long, excruciating process opens additional words.csv. So if I want to add a new word, I can go all the way down to the bottom of the file and add it. Listen, go way down. I want to add Knausj, so I'm going to type it out using letter keys. Dictate, press K. Listen, undo that. Dictate, press crunch. Listen, undo that. Listen, crunch. Listen, near. Listen, air. Listen, urge. Listen, sun. Listen, sun. Listen, jury. Listen, comma. Press space. Listen, press space. Dictate, Knausj. So what that did is I typed out letter by letter Knausj, which is the name of the username of Jeff Knaus, who created the default talents command set that everybody uses to get started. And then I dictated a pronunciation hint. My current speech engine, whenever I say Knausj, hears Knausj, so that's the pronunciation hint. Whenever it hears Knausj, it's going to substitute it in, substitute the name Knausj in. And now that I've gone through all of that stuff that I didn't actually include in my tutorial, let's get back to the tutorial. Listen, focus. Listen, go right. Listen, enter. Listen, click air. Listen, click air. So you might notice that all of my fields have a small letter beside them that allows me to click on them easily so that I can click into these editing fields. You might notice that links on this web page have those tiny letters to them as well. When I was saying click air, that I was saying, please click on that field to type. That is done using a Talon extension called Rango, which to install you will need to install a browser extension and a command set for it. But if you Google Talon and Google Rango, and yes, it is spelled Rango, R-A-N-G-O, exactly like that one movie with the lizard, and it's named after that one movie with the lizard, then you too can have cute little letters put beside everything that's possible to click on a web page. But let's see if my adding an additional word actually worked. Dictate. Can I now use Knausj in dictation mode? ? Dictate. Can I now use Knausj in dictation mode? Question mark. Nope, it's having a problem. I wonder if I forgot to save it. You have to always save the CSV file. So let's switch back to the CSV file I just edited and save it. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Yeah, that little star means I didn't save it. Listen, file save. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Dictate. Can I now use Knausj in dictation mode? Question mark. Yep, and there it is. It showed up. I added that word, and now it spells it correctly. All right, let's move on to punctuation. Listen, wheel down. Adding punctuation. Dictation modes will substitute words with the right punctuation appropriately spaced. If you say them out loud, say the words that are on the following punctuation list. So there's a whole list. You can dig them out of the source code, or you can just read the one I put here. They're exactly the same. So you can have a backtick or a grave, which will give you the backtick character that's located in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard. You can have comma. A period can either be a period or full stop. A semicolon uses the word semicolon. A colon uses the word colon, forward slash, question mark, exclamation mark, and so on. Listen, page down. So you might notice some notable absences on this list of punctuation, and that's, well, bad design. Dictation mode was created by a bunch of volunteer programmers, and it is not polished. So now we're going to get into things that you wouldn't know about until someone tells you, someone like me. Adding quotation marks. Dictation mode handles quotation marks a little oddly, so you have to know the right voice command to get quotation marks to do the appropriate spacing. Specifically, you have to use the command open quote to start a quotation and close quote to create a quotation, and ending quotation with the space after that. So let's do some punctuation and quotation dictation. Listen, wheel down. Listen, page down. Listen, wheel up. Listen, click cap. Okay, let's dictate this command. Dictate open quote, I like myself, period, close quote. I said open quote because I am awesome, exclamation mark, close quote. So I used the open quote commands to write that open quote. I used the period command to place that period. Oh, I forgot a comma. I said, there should be a comma right after I said. Listen, go right forwards. Listen, go forward. Listen, go forward. Listen, go back. Listen, go back. Okay, so we're back. We're on to the tutorial, and got myself into a bit of a spot, and I got myself back out of it with voice commands. Listen, click cap. I was going to try and edit that phrase, but now that it's gone, I'm just going to re-speak it. A lot of times it's a lot easier to just scratch your previous phrase and redictate it because it's faster than using editing commands. Dictate open quote, I like myself, period, close quote, I said, comma, open quote, because I am awesome, exclamation mark, close quote. And that is how you can add a whole bunch of correct punctuation to your dictation. So if you make a note, the open quote and close quote commands are handled by something called the prose snippet list. These are annoying because you currently can't look them up with the help context dictation help menu, and the only way to figure out what is on that list without having someone tell you what they are is to check out where they are in the source code. And to understand how lists work on a Python code level. I think I linked the exact spot in the code where you can look this up. So let's click on D and find out if I did that. Listen, click drum. Listen, click drum. Ah, no, so I linked it to my cheat sheet instead of this place in the source code where you can find it. It's in the file called dictation.py, but I think that might be getting beyond the scope of basics. Listen, go back. Listen, wheel down. So there are a bunch of commands located on the prose snippet list that are very useful. You can use the space bar command to insert a space. You can use the new line command to go to a new line. You can use the new paragraph command to go to a new paragraph. You can use open quote to insert an open quotation mark. You can use close quote to insert a close quotation mark that has the appropriate spacing. And then smiley and winky and frowny. Those are the only default things that come on the pro snippet list, but they're very useful to know, and they're not easy to find unless somebody tells you exactly what they are in a tutorial like this. Listen, wheel down. Listen, page down. The easy way to add new lines is the new line command, which inserts a new line, and the new paragraph command, which inserts two new lines to symbolize the beginning of a new paragraph. Otherwise, you can also insert a new paragraph with the keyboard command press new line. So let's do all of that. Listen, click each. Listen, go back. Listen, page up. 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 Listen page up. Man, we're only about halfway through. Listen page up. Listen page up. All right, let's try clicking it again. Listen air harp. Listen click air harp. Dictate new line. Dictate new paragraph. Dictate press new line. Dictate press new line. Okay, I must have done something to the new line commands in my command set because that's not working, but it either used to work or more likely I got rid of those because I didn't like them. But I could actually look that up. Listen, focus. I have dictation mode.talon open in a notepad file, so I'm going to go look at it. Listen, go down. Listen, go right. Listen, enter. Listen, go way up. Okay, so the reason why it's not working for me is because I am using this prefixed, no, I'm using the listen keyword and the dictate keyword in order to give these commands. If you look at the press user.keys line, you might notice it has a little caret at the very beginning of the line. That means that that particular command requires a pause before it. And my listen commands and my dictation commands require that there be no pause. So using the system that I'm doing in this tutorial, I can't use the press command, but I can turn off the system I'm currently using and demonstrate it anyway. So I'm going to do that. Listen, focus. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Listen, new line. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my current system by waking Talon up and putting it into dictation mode. Talon wake. Dictation mode. Press new line. Press new line. Talon sleep. Oh, that didn't work either. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Okay, I know what's going on. What's going on is I wrote the wrong line in the tutorial, so it should have been press enter, not press new line. There is no new line key on the keyboard. There is an enter key, however. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Talon wake. Dictation mode. Press enter. Talon sleep. There we go. The press key needs to use the enter command. Listen, wheel down. And that's an example of how to debug your own tutorials. So yeah, I need to fix that line so that the command says press enter instead of press new line. Listen, wheel down. Writing numbers. When you want to write out a number like 1, 2, 3, instead of having it written out as words, like 123 spelled out, you can prefix it with the word numeral. So, for example, well, listen, page down. For example, you can say the command numeral 123, and the result will type out 123. I'm going to practice that. Listen, click air gust. Dictate numeral 123. Dictate period. Dictate, I have numeral 5 fingers period. Dictate, I have 5 fingers period. Notice if I say just plain 5, it will spell out 5, but if I say numeral 5, it will write the numeral, the Arabic numerals, instead of spelling out the word. I can also say that it like numeral 1, 2, 3. Listen, air each. Listen, click air each. Dictate numeral 1, 2, 3. And there we go. You can now type numbers in dictation mode. Listen, page down. This is why you have to do vocal warm-ups before doing something like this, because this is a long marathon session and you will tire out your voice. You can also type out decimal numbers. Oh, and here's another trick. Instead of relying on an extension like the Rango extension, which I have installed, but you probably don't, you can use the tab key to navigate around in this tutorial. Listen, tab. And that skipped to the next editable field on the page without having to click anything or install anything extra. Listen, numeral 100.56. Oh, I used the wrong command. Listen, shift tab. Now I have to use the click commands. Listen, click air fine. Listen, click air fine. Dictate hello world. Listen, touch. Okay, what has just happened there is that I had moved my focus out of the browser window into the browser menu. And so those two components of a window have different focuses and different ways of receiving clicks. And so the usual way you get out of that is by clicking anywhere in the browser window. You'll notice that my arrow cursor is hovering sort of in the middle of the window. I said the command touch to click into the main browser window, and now I'm back where I need to be in this tutorial. Dictate numeral 100.56. And that is how you dictate decimal numbers. Listen, tab. What about times? You can dictate times by saying Dictate numeral 8:56. And then you have just typed out the time 8:56. Listen, page down. You can spell out words with the spell that command. For example, I'm going to say the command spell that air pit pit look each, which will spell the word apple. Listen, tab. Listen, tab. Dictate spell that air pit pit look each. And I just spelled out apple. Listen, page down. So people often want to spell proper names. It's possible to capitalize the thing you are formatting by putting the title formatter after the spell that command. So we'll try that. Listen, tab. Dictate spell that title trap air red air. And I capitalized my name properly. Formatting text. Many times people want to capitalize text, such as book titles, article titles, or other things. To format these phrases properly, you can say the word formatter, followed by the type of formatting you want, followed by the phrase that you want to format. We'll do a couple of examples. For example, to format a phrase like a book title, say, well, listen, page down. Listen, page down. For example, to format a phrase like a book title, say, formatted title, books are awesome. I'm going to demonstrate that. Listen, tab. Dictate formatted title, books are awesome. And that capitalizes things as if it's a title of a book. So there are a whole bunch of formatters that come predefined in Knausj. You can capitalize things. You can lowercase everything. You can camel case everything. You can just look at this table that I made that shows you the various ways of formatting phrases. Listen, page down. All right, so now we're getting into some of the very, very basic editing commands that dictation mode has. Dictation mode does not have a lot of editing commands, and they're not that good. There are a bunch of other editing commands elsewhere in command mode, but not in dictation mode. But I will go over the ones that dictation mode does have. The command select that selects the last spoken phrase, and this is very useful if you want to reformat the thing that you just said, such as capitalizing the last phrase to turn it into a book title. When you pair this with the format selection command, it becomes a powerful way to quickly and properly format what you just said. So I'm going to say a phrase in the text box below. I'm going to say select that, and then I'm going to say format selection title to format what I just said into a book title. Listen, tab. Listen, voice control is amazing. Oh, dictate, voice control is amazing. Dictate, select that. Dictate format selection title. Yeah, that's the wrong command. Listen, select that. Dictate voice control is amazing. Dictate select that. Dictate format title. Well, that's going wrong. Let's try it without my Simon Says prefixes. Select all. Talon wake. Select all. Command mode. Select all. Delete that. Delete. Dictation mode. Dictate voice control is amazing. Select all. Scratch that. Scratch that. Voice control is amazing. Select that. Format selection title. Okay, so Talon sleep. So what was going wrong there is that with my listen commands, the phrase format selection title obviously does not work when I prefix it with dictate. And the reason it probably doesn't work is because the command is probably defined to require a pause before it. Yeah, I'm going to go look that up just to see if I'm right. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Listen, go way down. Listen, go up. Listen, page up. Yep, that is right. Format selection, user formatters requires a pause before that command, and so it does not work with my fancy dictation command prefixed. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Listen, page down. So oftentimes there are keys that you want to press. To press a sequence of keys on the keyboard, you can do this from dictation mode. Oftentimes there are keys that you want to press on a keyboard, such as symbols that are not recognized by dictation mode. And to press that sequence of keys on the keyboard, you can use the press command. For example, the command press shift trap air look odd near ampersand will spell out the phrase capital talon and. So I'm going to do that. But I need to switch into my non-teaching mode. I need to switch into the regular dictation mode in order to do that. Listen, tab. Talon wake. Dictation mode. Press shift trap air look odd near ampersand. Talon sleep. Undo that. Scratch that. Scratch that. Talon sleep. There we go. And use some bonus scratch that commands as well. You can also press keyboard shortcuts such as the file save keyboard shortcut Control S on Windows or Command S on Mac, and I'll go over that. Listen, page down. So you can do that by saying press Control Sun or press Command Sun while you're in dictation mode, depending on what operating system you have. If you're Windows, you want to say press Control Sun. If you're on a Mac, you want to say press Command Sun. And that keyboard shortcut for 95% of the apps that you use, either on a Mac or Windows, that is the keyboard shortcut that saves your file. All right. Talon's dictation mode, or rather the Knausj dictation mode that comes with the Knausj-talon command set, has an auto-capitalization ability. However, sometimes or often this auto-capitalization does not work because you moved the cursor and it lost track of where it was in the file. Sometimes it's because you haven't set a period or the sentence ending character to terminate the last sentence. However, there's a quick fix for this. You can capitalize a single word with the command cap. Listen tab. Dictate cap apple. And that capitalized the word apple for me. Listen page down. Sometimes you say a word and then immediately decide that you want that word to be capitalized. You can recapitalize it with the command cap that. This capitalizes the first word of the last phrase you said. So if you dictated the start of a sentence and it didn't auto-capitalize correctly, you can quickly fix that mistake with the phrase command that. Let's demonstrate that. Listen, select all. Dictate OK. Dictate the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog period. Okay, so the last phrase that I just said was the quick brown fox show burl his dog. We'll ignore the spelling errors for the moment. If I use the command cap that, it is going to capitalize the word the because that is the first word of the last phrase I just said. Dictate cap that. Talon wake. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Cap that. Talon sleep. So apparently that's another command that requires a pause before it, which I can check. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Listen, go way up. Listen, page down. Listen, page down. Listen, page down. Yeah, cap that requires a pause before it. So in order to use that, you'll be able to use it just fine in regular dictation mode, but my fancy tutorial mode here does not permit it. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Sometimes you want to write out a word that is also a Talon command. Listen, page down. So sometimes you actually want to write out the word period instead of the symbol period, especially if you're a woman and it is that time of month. The escape command is for when you want to write out a word that would otherwise be a command. Listen tab. Dictate period. So that wrote the symbol period, but I actually want the word. So in order for that, I would need to say dictate escape period. Dictate escape period. And I bet you that's another command that requires a pause. Talon wake. Escape period. Yep. Talon sleep. So that is every command that exists in dictation mode except for the editing commands. You can use this to dictate paragraphs, to format phrases, and let's wrap this up with a dictation of part of this tutorial. Listen, Talon wake. Talon wake. Select all. Select all. Command mode. Delete that. Select all. Delete. Dictation mode. Sometimes you actually want to write out the word. Cap that. Open quote, period, close quote. Instead of the symbol, scratch that. Scratch that. Open quote, escape period, close quote. Scratch that. Open quote, escape period. Scratch that. Escape period. Close quote. Instead of the symbol, open quote, period, close quote, period. The escape command is for when you want to write out a word that would otherwise be a command, period. Talon sleep. And that is dictation mode.